Alright everybody, welcome back to another Mech Stack Tech. Today we're going over Chishiro, the Shattered Blade. Chishiro cares about modifying creatures, which means we care about auras, we care about equipments, and we care about counters on things. They all count as modifying our creatures, and we're looking to spread that love around, get a bunch of big beefy dudes, and eventually, just like, slam into our opponents for victory. As always, we're going to start off with our facilitators, who help us ramp up to the point where we're able to finally punch in for face. Let's get started here. Jang Yongu Wildcrafter is a planeswalker. He's going to put some +1/+1 counters on a creature at least twice. 3 times if we really need to push it, but that would kill him. Don't love that. But, he does let all of our creatures that have +1/+1 counters tap for mana. So he's ramping us quick to play more spells, which is going to further add counters to all of our dudes. And we're going to get bigger even faster. Following up our lovely Planeswalker, we have the Forgotten Ancient. Anytime anyone casts a spell, he's getting bigger. And at the beginning of our upkeep, we can move a number of +1/+1 counters from him onto other creatures. So, you play a single spell after him, he immediately becomes a 1/4. Move to end step, he becomes a 2/5. At upkeep, you can move both of those counters onto other creatures, knowing that you're going to play at least one spell on your turn. Plus, he's getting bigger from all the spells your opponents are playing. Definitely something you want to get out early and just let build value over time. Grumgelly the Generous is out here making it so all of our non-humans enter with some +1/+1 counters on them. This is fantastic. Very few of our creatures are actually humans, and by giving them a single +1/+1, they're modified, and Chishiro is just beefing them up every single turn. Fantastic ad, basically necessary for this stack. It's an instant include. Following up our Grumgelly, Kamio Celebration makes it so whenever our modified creatures attack, we get to exile the top card of our library and we can play it this turn. That's effectively pseudo card draw, a little bit of card selection. And whenever we cast those spells from exile, we get to distribute some +1/+1 counters. So, all around, all good. A little on the expensive side for 5 for a 3/3, but the multiple card draw per turn, combined with the fact that we're pumping out some +1/+1s, makes it worth it in my mind. Following up our celebration, we have Rishkar, Pima Renegade. Whenever he enters the battlefield, he's going to distribute 2 +1/+1 counters, modifying our boys, and he makes it so each creature we have that has a counter on it gets a tap for green mana. So he's ramping us, he's modifying all of our creatures. He is fantastic in this deck. That wraps up our creature facilitators, but we do have a couple, instant sorceries, artifacts, enchantments, all that good stuff to further help us modify. Starting off the list of those spells, we have Vastwood Surge. We want to kick it to get the +1/+1 counters on each of our creatures. But even if we don't manage to kick it, searching for 2 basic lands for 4 mana, like Ramping's great. We're thinning our deck, we're getting extra mana for the following turn. It fits the theme. Green's ramping hard. Here we go. Following that up, we have Silkguard. Silkguard's great because we get to put +1/+1 counters on X number of target creatures. And then they gain Hexproof. So it's actually fantastic as like a way to kind of counterspell, right? It's like, oh, you're trying to hit my creature with that? Well, he's actually hexproof, so you can't. Modifying the creatures further, and again, they're just going to get bigger each turn because of Chishiro. Snakeskin Veil is in a similar sort of spot. It's not hitting everybody, just the one. But, it is gaining hexproof, and that's what matters. Also the +1/+1. So, it's a mini version of Silkguard. Now, no fool, I know board wipes happen. Our creatures won't last forever. That's why we have the Ozolith. When one of our creatures with counters on it falls to the graveyard, Ozolith is going to hold on to all those counters and redistribute them, beginning of my turn. Moving on to enchantments, we have Bard class. Not an aura, but it's definitely giving our legendary creatures a little bit of boosted power, reducing the cost of our legendary creatures as well, and giving us a little bit of a, pseudo card draw in the form of exile, once again. So our commander is going to come out with some extra power. He's going to be reduced in cost. We have a handful of other legendary creatures. It is fantastic. Following up our class, we got some Bear Umbra. It has totem armor, so if you would destroy the creature, instead the Umbra is going to take the hit for it. Gives that creature +2/+2, and because they're now modified, Chishiro is going to boost them each turn. And whenever they attack, I get to untap all of my lands. This is a nice little bit of ramp in the form of untapping our lands, doubling up our mana, and is fantastic. Following up our Umbra, we have Concord with Akami, another non-aura spell. But at the beginning of our end step, we get to choose any number of things. Generally, we're putting a +1/+1 counter on target creature with a counter on it. Sometimes we're creating a colorless spirit token, and sometimes we're drawing a card. All of them are super viable. We have 13 enchantments, a number of them are auras. We constantly have creatures that already have +1/+1s on them, so we're making them even beefier. And we have a number of equipments in here. Didn't go over a ton of them, but there's a fair chance we're going to also create a spirit. 3 different effects every turn for 4 mana. Definitely worth it. Following up Kami, we got Invigorating Hot Springs. Another non-aura, but it does come in with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. We can move those counters around, and it gives all of our modified creatures haste. Hasty boys are happy boys. In a similar vein, we have Rhythm of the Wilds. Our creature spells can't be countered, love that. Our non-token creatures have Riot, so they're either coming in with haste, or more likely, they're coming in with a +1/+1 counter, modifying them immediately and guaranteeing that Chishiro is just going to pump them up every single turn. Last of our facilitators is actually a land, shockingly enough. But it lets us put a +1/+1 counter on each green creature that entered the battlefield this turn at, the cost of missing 1 piece of green mana, effectively. So, it's a nice, kind of go wide. We're going to just cast this big ol' net. Most of our creatures are green. They're all going to get modified. They're all going to get bigger. But we all know that these facilitators are just warming up for the A team, right? Our finishers. How are we closing out these games? We're going to start off our finishers with the Aki Battle Squad. Whenever 1 or more creatures I control that are modified attack, I get to untap all my modified creatures and gain an extra combat step. Only triggers once a turn, makes sense. But extra combats with big beefy boys, easy way to lead to victory. Following up our battle squad, we have the Champion of Lambhold, one of the few humans in the deck. But they're going to get bigger every time a creature enters the battlefield under our control. They're going to get those modifications going early, getting pumped up by Chishiro, and effectively make our whole team unblockable. You combine Champion of Lambhold with the Aki Battle Squad and a handful of counters, and we're basically just walking in, destroying someone's whole game, untapping, doing it to another player, knocking out 2 players at once, and it is fantastic. The third and final finisher, and personally one of my favorite ways to finish off an opponent, Mage Slayer. Whenever the equipped creature attacks, it deals damage equal to its power to player or planeswalker it's attacking. You throw this onto any big beefy boy, And they have a weird pseudo double strike / trample effect. And it is glorious. I finished people off by just having like a 20/20 creature just from all of the +1/+1 counters that I generate. Swinging, didn't even get to go to blocks, just one. So that's the deck. As always, the deck list will be posted in the description down below, or at least a link to the Mox Field page that has it will. The deck's certainly not fully optimized yet. I haven't really had the time to go through all my cards and like kind of soup it up and like sit down proper with it. But it's more than just the pre-con. If you guys like this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, comment below what kind of cards you think I'm missing from this deck, and what kind of commander you'd like to see next. But until next time, guys, good luck with those builds.